What's up, everyone? This is yours truly, Mr. Steven, and my pronouns are he, him, and his, and welcome to another Primetime exclusive on the Steven Factor. Folks, Prime Month is still continue, and for the first time ever, I decided that I'm going to take a break from the interviewing for one of my friends and celebrities and future YouTube stars. But for the first time ever on Steven Factor history, Emma Jayne Seslowsky is going to interview not one, but two inspiring people. Celeste, the founder of the Future Perfect Project, and Junior Mitt. Now, just want to let you know, the Future Perfect Project is for a youth for the LGBTQIA plus community, and EJ has been there for more than 2 years, and she is very educated and continuing to these young artists will become about who they really are, with diversity and talking about they express their feelings and how let it all out, and even the pronouns are completely is historic. And let's be honest, I went to a wonderful event, and they doing a very special 43-minute of documentary called Queer2Queer, and yes, Emma Jayne is the director on that time. So they just filmed it last year, and they air it a year later, and it was completely amazing. I watched it. It was remarkable. It was outstandingable, but also is very, very educational. And that's the Pride Month is all about. People are telling stories and talk about express their feelings and the diverse, and even older grown folks say how they really feel, and that's how it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we'll be waiting for. We're going to take you to the panel with Emma Jayne interviewing Junior Mitt and Celeste on this very special Primetime exclusive Pride edition of the Steven Factor. And remember, if you learn more about this channel, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell to see all my latest videos, and also like button as well. And folks, just want to let you know, due to the language, please, this format right there will not be suitable for children, but parents, if you have kids, watch with them. That's the most important. Enjoy.
I also wanted to let you know that we are going to be releasing the series tomorrow morning at, I think, 9 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. So spread the word, tell your friends, tell your family. We're really excited about that. And then we're also partnering with Out TV, and they're going to be releasing the series on their platform as well. We don't have an exact date for that, but it's going to be happening at some point in probably the next month or two. Also, we have some mailing lists that we've kind of sprinkled around the room. I think there's a couple on those tables, one on this table on your way out, so make sure to write your name and email there if you want to stay tuned in terms of what we're up to in the future. Yeah, so without further ado, I'd like to bring up our moderator and our panelists. Come on. Sorry about the water. So we're going to have a little bit of a conversation. I'm going to do an introduction for our wonderful moderator, Emma Jayne. So I'm going to read Emma's bio. So Emma is an Emmy-nominated composer, singer-songwriter, and comedian based in Brooklyn, New York. With 3 million plus streams across 15 releases, Emma's music has garnered placements on Spotify editorial playlists like Fresh Finds Pop. Notable achievements include composing for Hallmark and Coca-Cola and winning Jimmy Fallon's Battle of the Instant Songwriters on The Tonight Show. Emma also empowers LGBTQIA+ youth as the co-founder of Future Perfect Records, a residency for queer youth musicians through the nonprofit The Future Perfect Project.
The gorgeousness behind it. It's a little like, it's Pride Month, like let's keep it cute, you know what I mean?
It'll come up in a second. Emma is currently working on their second album, fueled in part by the Music Forward Foundation's LGBTQ+ Emerging Artist Award, and she's also a member of the Q2Q creative team.
Yeah. Pizza.
So we're out for her too. Emma, take it away.
Thank you. I did get the pizza. As a lesbian, you need to weaponize the crushes that male pizzeria owners have on you. That's what I did. So happy Pride Month. Thank you both for being here.
I'm old. I'm representing the elders.
You're representing.
I'm representing the TikTok generation.
Should we hit like a little like one of the exactly. What is that? Okay, so we'll keep this beautifully short and sweet, but medium and long and all the above. We're gonna queer the panel. Is that okay?
Yeah.
First of all, like, what did we think? Okay, Celeste, friends back.
The meeting afterwards, I will.
Yeah, you're gonna do autographs? Okay, good. Junior, it's been a long time since we filmed this.
Yes.
What was it like to kind of see yourself in conversation with this queer elder?
It's a really beautiful experience and also a very emotional experience because I remember that day so vividly and I remember that conversation so vividly. And for me, it really impacted me that whole day because I was walking away knowing something that I needed to add and continue to contribute to my life, which was these intergenerational conversations, because there is something so healing about getting to look across from someone who fought for your ability to exist in the way that you do right now. Mm-hmm. And, oh yeah. And it's really emotional to look back on it because that moment is very much up there for me with the Brooklyn Liberation March, where I walked away feeling more empowered than I thought I could. I walked away feeling like I had just met a family member who I'd never known. And so for me watching it, I feel the most blessed, honestly. Like, Marsha and Sylvia were looking down on me to put me into that space with Kaya. And you were. You were also looking at me. Yeah.
Your aunties.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you for that. And Celeste, I mean, you were a queer young person once. You're still, like, and it's a story, you talked to us a lot about what it was like to be queer when you were young. Can you tell the story that you told me? What it was like when you were 15?
When I was...
No.
You know, I think one of the things that we often, the way that we start conversations with people, young people that we work with at the Future Perfect Project is generally when I'm in the room, I tell them I ask them, how old are you? And someone says, I'm 15. I say, when I was 15, homosexuality was a crime, and it was a mental disease, and it was a sin, and that was the world that I grew up in. I grew up into a world in which I was a criminal, a little gay criminal, and mentally ill, and also I was going to hell. And there was no chance for me to have a life. And the fact that anybody survives that is a miracle. right? But there was something inside me that basically said, this is fucked up, and you're not going along with this program. You know, you can be in the choir, you can be an altar boy, and try not to like be too crazy, and don't kill anybody, and don't act like a mental person, and don't commit a crime. But keep your head down, and you'll get through this, because it's going to change. I don't know what gave me that. Maybe it was just like pure denial. But I realized when I started working with young people at the Future Perfect Project that I was living in a future that hadn't yet arrived. Right? It took 50 years for that, and when I began to work with these young people close up. And I realized that they were living in a future that hadn't yet arrived. And I can't see that future. Right? Like, it's just not within my purview to be able to see what's in the future. But they can, because they're bumping up against a world that doesn't belong to them. And I just feel so grateful. I was so moved by this, by watching this. I watched this about 6 million times. I had 40 million meetings discussing every second of this thing. And yet, sitting in the room with you all, feeling you feel it, it was so emotional. And for me, as a medium-aged queer person.
I didn't mean to say that.
No, I'm not. I'm old. I'm older now. I'm older. I'm going to be 70 this year.
Woo!
But as a medium queer-aged queer person, there was such internalized homophobia that did not allow us to talk to anybody younger. We were trained to not talk to young people for fear of being labeled a pedophile. So anybody younger, you just don't talk to them. And to sit there and watch you with such respect and honoring somebody older and feeling that connection that's been wanting to happen for generations to begin to happen, it made me so emotional. Really.
Me too.
Right?
Junior, what really struck me, I've been in your spaces and all the events you've put together, and they're fucking amazing. You really bring the community together every single time. And I was just so blown away by your insistence that elders be part of every single space. Because it's so true. And I don't know about you, but I didn't get queer history, I didn't get queer education, and so I didn't know queer elders were a group, other than my grandma, who I found out was gay at some point. Yeah, shout out to Elaine. Yeah, she's out. I didn't realize that was something we needed to pay attention to, and it's so ingrained in what you do, and so clear, like Kylo said when you walked through the door. Where did that come from? That reverence for your elders.
It came from a mix of, I'm the youngest person in all of my family. There's no kid younger than me. And so I grew up seeing all of these elders in my life. Everybody, even my brothers are 4 to 5 years older than me. So I was just a kid running around watching all these older people, talking wise, playing spades, all of these different experiences where I was watching these older people. And for me, the older people in my family were some of the most open-minded people I'd ever got an opportunity to meet. There were definitely lots of problems. It's older Southern Black people, but it was very much one where there's something to contribute, and they would oftentimes build off of ideas I had. If I wanted to do this thing, they'd come over and be like, okay, well, I got these skills. Let's have you become a carpenter. We're gonna build this thing that you want. I got to build a go-kart with my dad growing up.
That's ironic.
Exactly. It was all of these different experiences for me that really ingrained in me, oh yeah, there's so much that I don't know. And there's so many things that have been laid out for me that I don't know how they got there. And I got lucky enough where my mom's best friend growing up was a Black trans woman. And so even for me getting to experience her, she was 28, 30. So it wasn't as if I was seeing an elder. And so when I finally understand my queerness, I finally get the opportunity to go out and be in these queer spaces, I'm looking around and all I'm seeing are 20-somethings who, no shade, Instagram and TikTok and all of that, but I was I want to have a conversation with somebody in this space. I want to have a face-to-face conversation, and oftentimes it would be the queer bartender who was like older, who I'd be standing there having a conversation with. And as I began to produce things, more and more I would be seeing older people coming out to my shows because we'd be creating flyers for accessibility so that way people knew what to expect when they were getting there. We also had things specifically laid out and the show's format laid out in a way where they're able to anticipate, okay, this is going to be a louder, like, someone's about to do some rock music, let me go step away or get my earplugs. Giving information so that way people can prepare themselves, because it's not only helpful for elders, but it's also helpful for everyone in general to be able to know what you're walking into. So I say all of that to say, I grew up with a reverence for older people because they're the ones who taught me how to be who I am, and as well laid the path for me to be who I am. And when you begin to actually care about disability justice, and you begin to actually care about fighting ageism, you're fighting for all of these different oppressed communities at the same time. And so while I'm also showing reverence for elders, I'm also showing reverence and like support for disabled individuals. I'm showing reverence for those who just in general want to know what they're about to walk into.
Totally.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, and then some.
Okay, work.
In a good way.
I was like, I've got ADHD, so I'm like, ended up with like the mess. I don't know.
I know. I'm trying to stay on my. Me too, girl. Celeste.
Yeah.
Celestial.
Okay.
Something that stood out to me was this thing that Ari said, that like my generation is so quick to cancel, because there is sort of this ever-evolving language of what is acceptable to say, what isn't acceptable. Like even in 2012, hearing Kyler and the broadcasting transsexual, I feel like a lot of younger people will be like, we don't say that anymore. And so I'm wondering, but we need to have room for all of it, right? Because that is the original language. And I'm wondering, what have the younger generations taught you in terms of language, identity, transness?
You know, I have such incredible respect, as you know, for this particular generation. I'm mad about them as a group. And one of the things that I think is really, there are a couple of things. One of them is that they have really taught me what it looks like to be under one big tent and to be able to get along and communicate with each other. And that to me is like they can be all these different things, and yet they can all be queer. Like they made the tent less divisive and more like, let's call it queer and let's all be in it together. It's possible to be a community. And let's kind of keep the people who are giving us shade outside that tent. Like that's what divides people. It's like, you're going to be an asshole, you stay over there. But we want to actually figure out how to live into this world as our authentic self. And that's the second thing that I think is really, that they've taught me, which is they're showing us what it looks like to listen to your heart and listen to your body in a world that is trying to make us listen to things like that are in there, or coming from corporations, or coming from the government, or wherever it's coming from. They're holding this line, like, I'm going to be my authentic self, motherfucker.
Yes!
And I'm going to do it in the face of everybody telling me that this is confused, or that it's just a phase, or all the things that people say about young people. They are doing it regardless of whether they have people's permission to do it. And I find that so incredibly inspiring, and in terms of where we're at as human beings, right? If we lose hold of that, I don't want to bring AI into the room, but if we begin to be changed by that and start listening to those outside voices rather than listening to our hearts, we're lost. So I think that they're like some kind of like new iteration of the species that are holding the line right now, and they're young, right? So they get influenced. And one of the things that I find so extraordinary about what we're doing is we're giving them a forum to be able to experiment with their expression of that part of themselves.
Gave me permission to experiment. I mean, I feel like we walked into an LGBT center in South Carolina. There were people who I would typically avoid on the street because I'm like, oh, they seem homophobic. They were the drag queens, and they were the undercover, and they were there were people that looked like me using all sorts of pronouns, and they really make you believe they show you what's possible. I feel like you had a similar experience too, like you changed your name.
Yeah, and they really helped me do that.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, during the pandemic, we moved all of our programming online, and suddenly I was in these Zooms with hundreds of young people in their bedrooms all over the country every day, like we were doing workshops, and watching them change their name and their pronouns and their Zoom things from week to week, and go like, oh, I thought you're okay. Just put it in the chat.
Yeah, when someone joins the Zoom, I'm like, you don't say like, hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's their mom's name? That's 2 names ago? Like, you just wait and say like, hey, and you wait until they tell you who they are. Because, yeah.
Yeah, and in the process of it, just for those of you who don't know, Celeste was my middle name. And I grew up terrified that people would find out that was my middle name. I was truly terrified. I lived in terror every single day of my life that people would find out my middle name was Celeste. I was in New Jersey. My mother told me it was a man's name in France. I was like, New Jersey. This is a bad call. And so to be able to, at this point in my life, I think it was maybe 5 years ago, and to actually put it in, with the encouragement of those young people, to put it in my little Zoom square, was like a rite of passage for me as well, because I kept seeing them do it, and I thought, that's my name. It's my hidden name. So they really gave that to me as a gift.
All in the Zoom squares.
And now every time someone calls me Celeste, a little gay angel gets its wings.
My last question before we open up to audience questions. One of our prompts we do in our workshops is, you are a queer elder. Imagine you're a queer elder. What message do you want to send to the next generation of little teeny boppers?
I would say,
You're like grandmother, like imagine.
oh, I love it.
Me too.
I'm like, yes. Oh. I would say, 1, take care of each other. Look out for each other, because at the end of the day, those in your community are the only ones that you can really rely on. I'd say, question everything, and don't accept complacency from others and from yourself. And I would say the journey is going to be very rough. There's not really a way of stopping that, but the opportunity to come out of it even more sickening than you went in is always a possibility as well.
Yeah. Grandmother. Yeah, you were.
I was like, what would I tell my younger self? And it really is, success, joy, happiness will never look like what you think it does. And sometimes it is facing a bunch of people who don't see you, appreciate you, or value you, but knowing what your pronouns are, knowing what your name is, knowing who you are, sometimes is the joy. And it may not be material success, it may not be material wealth, but joy comes in a lot of different ways that you will never see coming sometimes.
Celeste, what is a message you wish you could beam back to your younger self who is keeping your name as a secret in the middle?
Look for your people. Look for your people. And